But I know as I go through this life that this earth ain't my home. I wanna go home, hey, I wanna go home cause I'm... Alright, it's story time. I know what you're thinking, Jared. You have made so many videos, right? You're probably up to like 80 by now, almost 90. You know, I think on the channel I have 90 videos that just haven't all been made public yet. They're coming. And you would think that I'm like kind of good at this thing. Well, I wrote a script for one video and it had 4 Bible verses and I ended up splitting it into 2 parts and they were both 10 minutes of filming. Yeah, that would have been one 20-minute video if I actually went along with it. And even 10 minutes of filming, that's still a ton. Like that's a lot of editing. I'll worry about that later. Cause now, I got a story. I'm leaning back because I was just doing like the proper posture thing for a whole long while. So I'm leaning back. I want to tell you guys a story. So a few days ago, I was weeding in a garden, right? And I was, moving around. I was on my hands and knees trying to pull these up because there was like this tree, right? And I had to get under the tree and I was like, trying to pull them up. It was tough because I'm a pretty big guy, right? We're not supposed to be hiding under trees to pull up these weeds. But I was, and I was, I was doing my best, right? And of course, I'm weeding these out. I'm, trying to make this garden look as nice as it possibly can. And I'm thinking, every time I come out to weed with someone else, you know what they always tell me every single time? Well, Jared, pulling out weeds in a garden is like the weeds in our own lives, because they sprout up and we got to make sure we're pulling them at the roots so that they can't grow back. And it's always you're listening to that and you're like, ugh, I've heard this before. And my pillows are all messed up. But today I wanted to give a different spin on that because in that moment, as I was weeding out these gardens, I really started to realize what they were talking about. You see, because a garden can be so beautiful, so colorful, all these beautiful trees and flowers and just, when the trees start budding, it's beautiful. Even if you're not the best gardener, if you just splash a ton of random plants around, you have a pretty good chance of making it look pretty nice. Because when God was creating flowers, He made them so beautiful so that, of course, you can kind of match colors, make it all that stuff. That's too fancy. I'm talking, if you just put them everywhere, it's still going to be beautiful because of how God made and handcrafted these flowers. But then all of a sudden, a few weeks in, a few months in, you start having these weeds that they poke out everywhere. And then sometimes you have the prickly ones. Those are so annoying. But they keep on sprouting out regardless of what we do. We can have preventatives, we can put mulch on there, we can put that like weird black cloth that everyone uses but somehow weeds still get through, and it's just like in our own lives, because weeds grow. How? Well, sometimes it's from past experiences, the people around us, what we watch, what we listen to. And you see, it is our focus, it needs to be our focus to make sure that we are constantly tending to the garden of our lives, because these things, they sprout up. And in the beginning, you can barely notice them. They're kind of right there. But here's what we don't notice is that under the surface, their roots are growing. Their roots are expanding. All of a sudden, you start getting more of them popping up, and then they all start to grow. And you know what, especially if they're intertwined in the plants around us. You see, if one grows right next to a flower, like an actual flower that you want, it's gonna start growing around it. And that's when it's super, super hard to get off because we kind of let it. We're like, I'll get that tomorrow. I'll deal with that in a few months. And then all of a sudden, it's so engrossed in this plant that we're like, well, I can't really get it now. But it's so important in the garden of our lives, the garden of our personal lives, to constantly be tending to it because we don't want any weeds to sprout up. We want to live pure lives. We want to live the best lives that we can. If there's weeds everywhere, it's hard to do. So Jared, how do we tend to this garden? Well, here's probably the most important thing. In order to be dealing with issues that pop up in our personal lives, of course you can talk to other people. But here's the thing, other people, sometimes they're reliable, sometimes they're not. You know what I mean? Like you try to text your friends and sometimes you're like, bro, I need some help. And they don't get back to you for like 3 days. You're like, sorry, I was in the shower. You're like, for 3 days? But there is one thing that we can do that will never, ever fail us. There's one thing that we do where he's never gonna be in the shower. That is, talk to God. Because God is constantly available to pray to, 24/7, but there's something else that's special. See, God, he's been through it all. He's seen it all. He knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. And he is more than willing to help us. And constant prayer with God is the exact mindset that we need to be in if we're going to try to tend to these flowers. Saying, God, I need your help because these things are sprouting up in my life and I can't deal with them on my own, but I need your power and I need your insight, your clarity so that I can start weeding this garden that is my life. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. You see, the second part of this verse, that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. You see, the weeds in our garden, they affect those around us. You see, you thought that it's only your life that's affected by your own issues, but it also affects the people around us, those who care about us, those who see us on a daily basis. If we're being just negative all the time, we're always trying to roast people, we're just, we're that person that feels like no one's ever gotten a compliment from, it affects those people around us, and eventually everyone's gonna want to stop hanging out with you. But you know who they want to hang out with? That person who's well put together, they got their garden in order and they're constantly striving to live to the highest standard that they can. Well, I take that back, because some people won't want to hang out with that kind of person who's always striving for more. But those kind of people who don't want to hang out with the one who's striving for more, those are the people that you don't want to be around either. Because you're going to have two kinds of friends in life. Those people that are trying to pull you up and saying you can do great things. And you're going to have those people who are pulling you down constantly saying, you know what, how about we just, how about we don't try to shoot for that? How about we just, stay down here, go through the motions? And of course, it's not that cut and dry, but I think when I say that, you may have a few friends in mind. You know exactly who I'm talking about, where you say, yeah, you know what? There are some people who aren't trying to bring out the best in me. See what I'm saying? But anyways, let's get back to the original problem. How often are we tending to our garden? And if we're being honest, what exactly does our garden look like? Well, even if it looks bad right now, you can go out and weed it today by saying, God, I need you. It's that simple. So go ahead, as soon as this video is over, start praying, saying, God, I need you to help me weed out the garden of my life. Peace.